Hello and welcome to the Spooky Chris podcast. I am your aforementioned Spooky Chris Ringler. This time around, I want to talk a little bit about the Flint Water Crisis. Something I've talked about before. If you're new here, welcome. Have a seat. I'll try to be brief. I lived in Flint during the water crisis. During the entirety of it, I had a house there. I've talked about it to a great degree. I mean, it's just even as someone, and you know what? And I'm not gonna say that. I say someone on the periphery. No, we were in it. We were in the middle of it. We were going, my wife and I, to go get water bottles. Like they would have stations that you could go and get free water and stuff. We had a dog just one at the time. And so that was kind of a concern, is the water that you feed the dog, and all of that. And so we lived through it. We obviously didn't live through the horrors that a lot of folks lived through. But I also don't think that we deserve to have our experience minimized and pushed aside because I'm not stating that our experience is greater than one another, someone else's. So I'm not gonna minimize the fact that we were there. We were, there when it all happened. I worked at a place that was helping out the community at the time as well, and so I got to see kind of a lot of the behind the scenes machinations as well that people would have gotten to see. But no, so I wanted to talk about it. It's funny. Yeah, I almost want to apologize. Oh gosh, I'm sorry to talk about this again, because there isn't a sentiment locally, and I'm sure nationally, where it's just like an eye roll, like, this again. Come on, isn't it over? It's over, right? Which it's interesting. That is a controversial question. Still, is people will ask. Folks, hey, how sometimes jokingly, how's the water? I think I mentioned in another podcast, I kind of talked about it, not really a review. Had gone to see Patton Oswalt do a stand-up show in Flint, and someone yelled out, "Don't drink the water!" And it's one of those things where people that didn't live through it think that it's funny. Which is weird. It's a weird thing, but we're a weird species, but it's weird to think that this trauma that affected a city and its people is kind of a punchline now. And this is coming from someone who I appreciate gallows humor. I appreciate, dark humor and all of that, and do ascribe by the fact that you do have to laugh in the face of the worst sometimes just to survive it. But it's also, don't talk about my mama if you don't know my mama, kind of a thing. It's like, don't talk about things that you don't know anything about, and that you think is jest worthy, because it's not for you to say that it is, kind of a thing. Which, I mean, I don't know. It's if you're in the middle of something like that, you get it, and if you're not, and you've never been through anything like that, maybe you don't. But it's still one of those things where people ask sincerely, "Is it over?" And then they ask in kind of a like way. And I mean, the fact is, yeah, water's good. I mean, as as good as municipal water is. They, luckily right now they're testing it a lot and all that, so it's in much better shape, with eyes on it. The fact is that the damage is in the trust level of the people in the city and everything. And that, I mean, I don't know, that would take, I mean, honestly, that will take perhaps generations to remedy. And that's just the way of it, is kind of, why am I going to trust, the government, for lack of a better term, the people in charge, to tell me the truth and to tell me, that, oh yeah, no, you're, and to mean it sincerely, like, oh, the water is safe, absolutely safe. When, folks were poisoned live and we're kind of told that they were, making a mountain out of a molehill, kind of a thing. But I didn't want to really dig into the meat of that stuff, because I've talked about it a lot, and I mean, if you have heard about it, you've heard about it. What I want to talk about is that, as of, we're what, year 11? We're in year 11, almost done with year 11, since it began, and money has still not been paid out, and we, as current or former citizens of the city of Flint, still are waiting. It has been a long, drawn-out process, and in some respects, I get it, is because you don't. The danger you have of moving too fast, obviously, is you leave people behind, and you can't just assume that everyone is coming to the table with the same knowledge of technology and all of this stuff that you do. So you can't hurry through this and just like, well, everybody's going to figure it out. Well, not necessarily. You're dealing with, potentially the elderly, the young, people who have differing education backgrounds, technological backgrounds, the whole gamut. So you've got to, and they did to a great degree, meet people where they were. They tried to do it as best they could, and I'm sure that's something that you can always criticize, is like to say people, they didn't do enough, and that may come out to be the case. But the fact is that a lot of people, I mean, I think it's 26,000 people were approved, I think, and they had 28,000 or something, have applied or whatever to get funds. And it started at 660 million or something, and then the lawyers shaved off 180 to 200 million off of that. I can't remember if it was 800 million initially, and that might have been the case. I know they keep talking about 600 now, so it's I didn't quite look that up, but I did look up that the lawyers who were involved in this have already, and it's so funny, and that's where I wanted to get into, is it's funny, like, through all of this process, a very long process with not clear instructions, directions, timelines. Timelines are completely made up and disregarded. They have not been communicated to the people of the city, even to the people in charge in the city. It's kind of whenever. And part of the holdup, and I get it, is the process, is getting everyone's things in, and then going through them, and then sending them back, and having them correct them, and then, getting it through the process, and now we're still into an appeals process. And I understand. But I feel like there's a way that this could have been done where there's deadlines, and it's like, and they tried, they'd be like, hey, we're moving forward at this point. But again, we're 11 years since it began. We are, I don't know, 5 years, something like that, at least, since this whole lawsuit stuff started, and that money has been around. That there is no urgency when children were poisoned. Children who, when they, even so, like, they're going to give the most amount of money to kids that were under 6. Even still, they are almost of age. These children who are forever changed by this poisoned water, who their lead levels have risen to such a degree, they're changed for the rest of their lives in some way. Even if they're healthy as a horse, as they say, the trauma of this and the distrust and going through this, they still don't have money in hand, and they may not be, like, they will almost be of age by the time they have money in hand. That is insane to me. But the lawyers who worked on this case, who, if they were real live human beings who weren't ghouls, would have said, it's okay as long as we get X amount, because they got, like I said, 180 to 200 million dollars out of this, and they went through no trauma. They could have said, hey, put the money aside, and we can wait to be paid until everyone else is paid. Even if you said, hey, if we can just wet our beaks just so we can keep running, I guarantee y'all could have lived without $200 million for a couple years. Guarantee it. Absolutely. Stone cold lot guarantee it. But it looks so bad for the lawyers to have gotten paid and then be in the wind, and the people of the city have not been paid yet. That's I mean, it's gross. It's what it is. It's gross. And it's funny because at one point the lawyer, whoever, like the representation at one point, like pieced out a few months ago. They're just like, yeah, we're pretty much good. And they like pieced out to a, like, and they were like, you can find us in the Barbados kind of a thing. And people were just like, Barbados? Like what? Like, and I think it's just a matter of, this is so poisonous as an entity. It is almost an entity. It is almost a thing. It is a thing in the room of people who lived through it, the people who were, I mean, literally in the midst of it, the heart of it. They were in, like, engulfed by this. It is a thing in the room with them. Anytime for the rest of their lives, they tell people like, "Oh, where are you from, Flint? Oh, how's the water?" This is what they're going to get. This is what they're going to hear is people, because it's easy. Again, I mean, people in the suburbs around Flint, it was easy to laugh at and like, "Oh, they just want free money," and this and that, because they didn't go through it, and because we don't know how to reckon with the idea that, like, no, the very thing we need to survive, that we wash our dishes, cook with, clean with, feed our pets, feed our children, water our plants, everything was poisoned. It's hard to get your head around that, and that it was poisoned not for, like, a day, but like for a period of time that poisoned people permanently. And there have been some amazing crusaders who have fought for the people of Flint and who have really, tried to keep them together. And we're closer, they just have come out and they're trying to get the special master or something. They're trying to get the judge in the case to let them move forward more expediently. The problem is that we are still going through appeals. And the crappy thing is, even if 28,000 people go through this and get money or whatever, there's going to be people that were left behind, that they died before this could all happen and they could get money. So their family may get some, but the people affected themselves are gone. People have moved. People just didn't know how to get involved in this. There still may be people out there who don't trust the government and wouldn't. They're like, I'm not telling nobody nothing. There's so many things. So people, I guarantee there are people that fell through the cracks. But in that, there's people as well that are at the trough who had nothing to do with this and who are trying to get money out of it. And that's I mean, you don't want to think too long on that. I mean, that's just human nature, isn't it? That whenever there's something like this, there's a grift. There's someone trying to make money off of the tragedy and misery of others. You always see it with natural disasters and everything. People pop up like, "Oh, hey, I'm raising money for the people down at blah blah blah, and we're doing this great work." And people, "Oh gosh, God, yeah, absolutely, I want to help out." And then as soon as they catch wind that someone's onto them, they get the money and cut and run, and then they're winning the win. And so there's absolutely people in this kind of vast line who shouldn't be there, who are going to get some manner of money in hand that they don't deserve. The troublesome part as well, though, beyond because they were supposed to start, and they keep pushing back when, "Oh, hey, we're going to let everybody know at least what you're getting in kind of a timeline." That was supposed to happen most recently as of November 1. It was in the fall, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, it's going to be in November." Well, November's about done. Got a couple days left. So November was not the month of this year. So we're still waiting to even find out who will get what. They're saying payouts will be range from $1,000 to $100,000. And it disturbs me to no end that these kids, and it's only like the kids that were under 6 at the time and who are permanently, damaged essentially, are going to get that $100,000 years after the fact that they could have used to help them get through school and in life and stuff. And yeah, the schools are doing their best, and like our nonprofits and stuff are doing their level best to help support these kids. But like to get specialized stuff, I bet that money could have helped. But it just I don't know. It's hard to get my head wrapped around the idea that that's the most these kids are going to get. Nobody was ever prosecuted and successfully. So it was just something that's like, it was a gigantic oopsie poopsie that some folks had to pay money out of their, corporate pockets or, state pockets or whatever. But nobody really felt it in their own pocket. And it's crazy to me. That's where it gets down to is we have not been paid. No one has been paid, except for the lawyers. And these kids are still going to have to reckon with the world. I mean, it's great that they'll get anything out of this, sure. But I think we can do better than, well, it's better than nothing. I think as a society, we should do better than that. The problem is that there's too many people at the trough. But when you see someone gets coffee spilled in their lap and they sue for millions of dollars kind of thing, and these kids who are permanently damaged themselves and they're going to be fighting for scraps, it's hard to wrap my brain around it. And even nationally, like, everybody has moved on. Like, no one wants to hear about this anymore. Everybody's over it. The city's over it. That's the thing, too, is the city's over it. We're over it. Everybody's over it. We don't want to talk about it. We want, like, everybody wants... That's why I'm shocked that there's not more of a sense of urgency. Like, hey, let's cut X amount of money off the top and start paying these kids. And start getting somebody money. And then, then you don't use all of it, but like the kids are the most important ones. Get them the money. And then if people come in late or the appeals or whatever, then you can reckon with the rest. Especially now, like when you've decided what the rubric is for how you're going to pay people. And they have like a mathematics to it all and stuff. Because you can't wait, while I don't want to see people left behind, we can't wait forever. We can't wait for everyone to figure it out or to get through this. It's just, there has to be a time that we can, so getting back to it, like getting this payout, at least that kind of closes a book on this. The whole thing is just... It's always going to be a stain on the region and the city and the state and the nation, because this stuff shouldn't happen. But without kind of making amends, without kind of taking care of it, and wrapping this up to drag this out, just keeps that wound open. And even if everybody got $1 out of it, it's a poor bandage. But it's a bandage. It's just, there's a point where we need this to be over. And there is so much red tape. And there's just such a lack of urgency. And again, I get it. These are the machinations of bureaucracy. Like, welcome to bureaucracy. And, well, we got to do it this right way. And you got to do it this way. And you got to do this. And we got to sign this and that. But, like, this is where... Especially the initial lawyers, man, they got $200 million out of this, roughly. Like, why aren't people bending over backwards trying to get this done, making sure this is done? Why isn't this like a priority for all of the people in the background that are working on this, and again are getting paid? Like, it's not like any of these people are working out of the goodness of their own heart. So they're getting paid, and they're just not in a, the machinery just won't work fast enough. It will for certain people and for certain things, but not for this. And again, the problem is that I think there's too many of us. There's too many people that were harmed, which should give everyone pause. It should not be everybody's trying to get rich off this. It should be like, holy crap, if that many people are legitimately a part of this, that shows you how horrifying this is. This was a quarter of, roughly, give or take, the quarter of the population of the city of Flint. That's crazy. That even if nothing else, their homes, their property, their businesses were affected by this enough that they are part of this lawsuit. And again, people can brush it off and whatever, but like, until you are in it, until you have like your home, your city, your town, like you find out you're poisoned for X amount of time, and like your property values drop to nothingness, and no one wants to visit your town anymore, and your town is a strange laughing stock for macabre reasons. It's, until that stuff happens, I don't know if you can appreciate how folks in Flint feel. And I think until this can finally, until the last person who legitimately should have something gets that, cash in hand, like everybody can complain, and I can complain that the kids should have gotten more. People complain like, why didn't I get more? I should have gotten, whatever. People can do whatever they want, but at least it's something, and it puts the bandage on the wound, and it lets people start wrestling with the trauma and moving forward. And as of today, that's not a thing. I hope, for the sake of all those kids, man, for the sake of the city, that that at the end it's going to be wrapping up quickly. And again, I last thing I'd want is them to have rushed through this and do it incorrectly, and kids essentially, people that were damaged, were cheated or whatever. I certainly don't want that. But I also think that there is a fine line where more could have been done to rectify this and to make this more of an urgency in the minds and hearts of everybody. And it's just, I wish that was the case, that we could move past this. And it's heartbreaking that, again, we're still where we are. But friend, hopefully, my as my Thanksgiving wish is that I'm thankful for all the people that are fighting for all these folks, and who are towing the line and trying to make sure that something happens. But man, this has been a heck of a wait, and it's gone on too long. Friendo, I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. I appreciate you listening. I'm sure I will have another interview soon. You can catch all of my interviews and conversations on spookychris.com or on your favorite podcasting platform. You can follow all of my books and movie reviews and everything else, all my blogs, at spookychris.com as well. I will talk to you soon, friend. Take care.